Every year there are approximately 250,000 service strikes in the UK, resulting on average in 12 fatalities and 600 serious injuries. The principles outlined in this video will help and prevent you from becoming part of that statistic. This presentation covers the safe systems of work outlined in the Galliford Tri-Standards and the Health and Safety Executive Guidance, HSG 47. The three basic elements of the safe system of work outlined in HSG 47, planning of excavation works, locating and identifying buried services, and safe excavation techniques, if followed, will prevent loss of life and serious injury. The guidance offered for each of the three stages will clearly demonstrate the controls required in order to mitigate the serious risks arising from any task involving the breaking of ground. All excavations must be planned and managed by a trained and competent utility service coordinator who is authorised and appointed by the business unit. A suitable and specific risk assessment and method statement must be in place and approved. This, supported by the completed excavation design and tender checklist and excavation pre-start checklist, will define the scope and risks of the works when compiling the permit to break ground. All persons appointed to undertake the excavation works should be suitably trained and experienced. The Buried Services Toolbox Talk should be briefed to all operatives prior to any excavation works commencing. Once complete, the utility service drawings and GPR survey map should be consulted in order to ascertain the locations of any known services that may cause a hazard during excavation works. The identified services should be highlighted and displayed on a service avoidance plan and details clearly communicated to the operatives undertaking the works. There should be no breaking of ground, including the use of road pins, without the appropriate planning and issue of Part A of the permit to break ground by the Utility Services Coordinator. The permit to break ground must be completed at the location of the proposed work. This ensures that all known services are identified and marked on the ground, position of trial holes clarified, and method of hand digging agreed and briefed out accordingly. When undertaking any excavation works, a cable avoidance tool or CAT must be used in conjunction with a signal generator or JENI prior to excavating. Both the CAT and the JENI shall be calibrated and within the service period. Such details should be verified prior to carrying out the survey, ensuring the information arising from the use of this equipment is accurate and acceptable. The defined work area should be scanned by a competent person in all modes, which include power, radio and generator. A ground penetrating radar survey should already have been considered, and if deemed necessary, through the assessment of potential risks which arise from the works within the given location. This offers a greater level of detail and better understanding of what lies beneath the ground. This is particularly useful for excavation works in high-risk areas where a multitude of differing services are known to be located, typically in high streets and heavily occupied inhabited areas. Many business units already insist on the use of GPR surveys as a standard approach. The survey should extend beyond the project's red line boundary, identifying potential fixtures and services that may enter the site. This is recognised as a best practice, and such details should be discussed and agreed with the GPR surveying contractor. Prior to using cable avoidance tools, a thorough visual survey of the work area and beyond should be conducted. This should identify any previous excavation works, scarring in tarmac, depressions in the ground, and any evidence of live services such as street lighting, gas pipes or drainage. With the assistance of the CAT and JENI, all identified services should be clearly marked on the ground. This can be done by using contrasting spray paints or using the service location markers. Not forgetting the spray may be lost over time or by the ground being disturbed. The markings should be checked on a periodic basis and reapplied as required. The project's utility service coordinator should be informed of the findings of the survey, who should, in turn, brief the team on the results and update the permit to break ground, clearly identifying the required location of trial holes and safe digging practices to be employed. In this section we will consider the safe methods to be adopted when excavating by hand, machine and the use of more recent technologies such as vacuum excavation. Once all reasonably practicable steps have been made to identify the presence of surfaces and other potential hazards in the area to be excavated, then the final section of Part A can be signed and the hand digging works to commence. The first stage of any excavation is to identify the needs and locations of trial holes required, which should have been highlighted whilst completing the permit. Please note, if there are no known surfaces located during the desktop study and or CAT and Jenny surveys, then Part A can be signed off, allowing Part B for the mechanical digging to be completed. If trial holes are required, then this work must be carried out by competent contractors. Personnel shall wear the correct flame and arc-resistant clothing if working in close proximity to live surfaces. The trial holes should be of a suitable size and depth to allow clear access in order to identify all the surfaces present that may conflict with the progression of works within this area. The use of mechanical excavators are strictly prohibited on trial holes unless a suitable and sufficient risk assessment has been created with the assistance of a health and safety and sustainability advisor. Typically, removal of overlying hard surfaces, for example. Once the trial holes are complete, the utility service coordinator should review all exposed surfaces and update any variations on as-built drawings and the service avoidance plans. The excavation of trial holes can be carried out using a number of different methods that vary depending upon risk. Hand digging using insulated tools. Work should commence offline and the tools pushed into the ground gently by foot and never thrust into the ground, as this may cause damage to the surface. The outcome of damage in such circumstances could be serious burns or even death. Use of air picks will assist in non-cohesive ground, but not clays, again working down and in from the side to prevent direct downward contact. Vacuum excavator, where a high risk is prevalent. Such an approach has many advantages: smaller area of opening to expose the surface, quicker for large numbers of trial holes, or extensive exposure of high voltage stroke risk surfaces within the area. Where vacuum excavation is not to be used, then this must be justified within the construction phase plan by the project team. The underground service coordinator must review all trial holes within the area of work and satisfy himself that all surfaces are adequately protected, recorded for updating of drawings and service avoidance plan, and only then can Part B be completed for mechanical excavation to proceed. Part B should be signed by both the underground service coordinator and the groundworks supervisor. It should be noted that all appointed operatives for the works should sign the permit for both Part A and Part B as necessary. This means that someone may have to sign for both parts if involved in each part of the work. Signing this document is to acknowledge that the individuals have been briefed and understand the controls that have been put in place in order to mitigate the hazards and risks that have been identified. If the principles of this video are adhered to, then this will greatly reduce the likelihood of service strikes occurring. So please remember that nothing we do is so important that we cannot take the time and effort to do it safely.